Welcome, and let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We go next. And one more. One more after this. The death toll continues to rise in Turkey and Syria, and I'd like to take a moment of silence for those lost souls and the devastated survivors. Thank you. Chris Anderson with the DEC is here to tell us about an exciting event that's coming up and to introduce a new member of Congress to you. I think.
Good morning. On March 3rd, the Washington Post did an article about the Florida Democratic Party. And the one comment they made that caught my eye was that during the 2022 election, there was one bright spot, and that was the victory of Maxwell Frost, who won the congressional seat previously owned by Val Demings. And he has received a lot of national attention because he is the first Gen Z member of Congress. This week he has continued to receive attention with his performance at congressional hearings. The Post reported that he has signaled a generational turn for the Democratic Party. He's a young, rising star in our party, and he is putting his stamp on our party as modeling how to break through the informational clutter that we all hear. And the Sumter County Democrats are thrilled that he will be the speaker at our gala on March 26th at the Brownwood Hotel. And here's a little bit more about Representative Maxwell Frost.
Meet Congressman Maxwell Frost from Florida's 10th District, the first Gen Z member of Congress. His mother and grandmother immigrated from Cuba, and arts have always played an important part in his life. Since launching his campaign, he's received a lot of media attention.
But what do you say to Governor DeSantis or anyone else who says you're just too young for the job?
Yeah, well, you know, the first thing I say is I think we need younger people in our government, right? I mean, right now, Gen Z and millennials make up a third of our country. We're nowhere near a third represented in Congress and state legislatures, and I think it's really important to have young people involved. But the other thing I'd say is we need to challenge what we're looking for in our candidates, right? There's a caricature of what a congressional candidate looks like, and that's not me, right? I'm a young organizer, worked at the ACLU, worked at March for Our Lives, doing direct actions, but I think we need more working class people and more organizers represented in Congress.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And so many young people voted that now that we've actually heard some Republicans suggest that they need to raise the voting age. Do you have a reaction to that?
Well, this is what Republicans do. When they lose elections, instead of changing their policies, they want to change the voters, right? I mean, this is what we see it done with voter suppression to suppress black and brown votes. We're seeing it now with the voting age because young people are voting overwhelmingly for Democrats because they actually want a planet to live on and raise their kids on. Yeah.
Can you tell me what issues are important to Gen Z?
You know, I think the issues that are important to Gen Z are the same ones that are important to everybody else, right? Being able to live our life with opportunity, the resources we need, and not being in a world where we have to pick between rent and healthcare, and where we go out to and feel like, you know, scared of gun violence. And so I think the difference, though, is the lens in which we see the issues through. Being a generation that has grown up through so many mass shootings, being in a generation that is asking questions, why haven't we dealt with climate change and the impending climate crisis crisis. We see what's going on around the world in Pakistan, here at home, here in Florida, which is ground zero for the climate crisis here in the United States. And we're asking, why hasn't this been dealt with yet? And so it's the same issues, I believe, but it's the different perspective and it's a different sense of urgency.
Hear from Congressman Frost at the Sumter County Democrats Starry Night Gala, Sunday, March 26th at the Brownwood Hotel. Tickets are available at sumterfldemocrats.com.
The gala is our largest fundraiser, and we need to raise money to do all the work that the Sumter County Democratic Party does. So please consider supporting us by buying a ticket and going, and also have an opportunity to hear from this rising star. Some of you got one of these handouts. The QR code will show you this video. It's also on our homepage. You can go to sumterfldemocrats.com to order your tickets, or we will help you at our table up front after the program. Thanks.
I'd like to welcome Mike Falk to the stage, past president of the club. He's going to introduce the nominees for the upcoming board election.
Thank you, Diane. Can you hear me? Yes. Welcome, Democrats. Good to be back up here again. So I'm going to present the nominees. It's going to be kind of like the Academy Awards, but it isn't. So, next slide, please. Thank you, nominating committee. These folks put in a lot of effort to find candidates, elevating volunteers that have done work for the club, and finding candidates that are going to move us forward into the next term. And then Sue Blaylock's the leader of that group. Stand up, Sue. She also does a lot of, she's also the hospitality chair, so I don't know how she found time to do this. Marcia Shearer, Marcia. Sharon Shoro. I saw her somewhere. Okay, well. Sylvia Bass, I don't know if Sylvia's here. Okay, Sylvia's in here. And Juana Smith Kearns.
Here she is.
Okay, how about next slide, please? Okay, the nomination for president is Diane Foley. You know her? Diane started the Club of the Volunteers. She's been project manager for these meetings since 2001, and 2001, wow. 2021. I don't think I remember the club then. She was VP of membership for 2 years, 2021, 2022, and she assumed the presidency last December. She lives in villas in San Miguel. Her husband Dennis, her cat Smokey, and her dog Tucker. And Dennis's bio said he was an inconsistent golfer, but a solid Democrat, and I feel your pain, especially about the golfing part. So next slide, please. VP of Programming, Sue Dudman. Sue's in the raise. Anyway, Sue's lifelong Democrat, active in Florida politics. A lot of stuff she puts out, a lot of stuff with for legislative action. She's the first VP of the Democratic Women's Club of the Villages. She's also co-lead for the Health Care and Safety Legislation team for the Democratic Women's Club of Florida. So thanks for doing that. That's for VP program. Programming is this, amongst other things, getting speakers. It's a huge role. Thanks, Sue. Okay, VP Communications is Dennis Foley. Dennis, stand up, please. You all know Dennis, who does the buzz, and he's the current treasurer and parliamentarian. He was previously director and secretary. So he's also the Sumter Precinct 102 captain, that's up north, and state committee man for Florida Democratic Party, and he's a member of the Florida Senior Caucus. So thanks, Dennis, for all your effort. Next slide, please. VP of Membership, Verna Bernarski. Verna, stand up wherever you are. Is she here? Oh, okay.
Oh, she's out there signing somebody up.
Oh, she is? She's busy doing membership. Okay. She's been here since 2015. She's currently the club secretary. Prior to that, she was 19 years with the American Osteopathic Association. In that role, she did fundraising, wrote grants, and she advised medical students about future careers. Thanks for doing that, Verna.
Hello. I need that.
Skills that work for us.
Sorry.
Where'd they get those chairs from?
Next slide, please.
I stole for the back room.
VP of Technology, Andy Kleiman. Andy isn't here today, but you all know him. At least you know what he does, all the technology that works with Rick to get the PowerPoint set up and presented like this. And he's the current director of technology, 4 years of IT experience. Andy and his wife Joanne have lived in Hawkins for 4 years. They've got a dog named Hershey, who wears a blue collar harness, because he needs to be a Democrat in that household. Next slide, please, Rick. Treasurer Lee Strickland. Lee can't be here today. I talked to her and she's on a cruise, so I guess she had a better off. But really, it's not true. This was scheduled a long time ago, and when I was talking to her, she said it was a dance cruise, so she's a ballroom dancer. So she started her own accounting and tax practice in 1990. She did budgets, accounting, payroll, and taxes. She ran for a board of supervisors in Maricopa County in 2008. She was a commissioner on the planning and zoning for the city of Peoria, Arizona for 7 years. She loves to read, travel, and dance. Next slide, please. Parliamentarian, Amy Shaw. Is Amy here today? Oh, hi, Amy. We haven't met, and I was sitting right in front of her. Amy's been here for about a year. She got her BA from Franklin and Marshall, JD from William and Mary. There were some colleges in there that I didn't put on here because the slide would look like an eye chart. She spent 30 years in human services with the state of West Virginia, New Jersey, and the U.S. Department of Human Services, those interactions. And her emphasis was on policy and legislative analysis. So, thank you, Amy. Okay, we're still looking for a secretary. And I know every meeting we talk about, we're looking for volunteers, and that's true, but especially, to fill out the board, we'd like to fill it with a secretary. If you're interested in serving, please contact any board member, and we'd appreciate it. Next slide. The election will be next month at this meeting, and then the new officers begin their terms April 1st. So in closing, I want to thank all the that are going to be voted on next month for taking the time to go through all the interviewing and all that. We appreciate it, and we know you're going to be good, good members of, good additions to the board of the largest Democratic club in Florida. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. We have some amazing members in this club, people that volunteer every day. They don't know how to sit down and rest. So we're going to start introducing them to you one at a time. The first up is Rhonda Casey. Rhonda works with and has worked with Tutors for Kids for about 8 years. She's a retired social worker. She's out of Philadelphia and Southern New Jersey. I always thought Philadelphia was in Pennsylvania. So she serves the community, and besides finding this club, the BDC, she has also found a home with Tutors for Kids. She's been a tutor at Wildwood for 8 years and just completed 6 years on their board, most recently as the chair. And she loves to golf, and she is now a watercolor painter. Come on, Rhonda.
Good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to look out and see so many friends. And already this morning I met a whole cluster of South Jersey / Philadelphia friends. So I have to say, in the best Philadelphian I know, go Eagles. First you go to the Acme and you get your platter for the Eagles. Anyone that's from that area knows. You can tell I wasn't born there, but my professional life, and I was born in very rural Pennsylvania, where I am thrilled to tell you, so lucky that there was a robust public education system. And my professional life at the other end of Pennsylvania and Southern New Jersey, I also enjoyed. Never knew it till I came to Florida, what a pleasure it was to have communities that, even though I lived in a very red community in Southern New Jersey, they believed in public education. When I came to Florida, I was absolutely stunned by the meddling of politics and education. And I think now I've been here almost 11 years, it continues to decimate a public school system. My opinion, but that could be news on some stations, is that if you have a negative, poorly educated public, they won't come out and vote, and you'll be able to steer them however you want. And so I believe underneath the stealing of quality public education is a very divisive, negative piece to our politics and education. Enough negativity, except just a little bit. How many retired educators are here? Yeah. Wonderful. How many of you retired from Florida as an educator? All right, so we have a couple experienced people. Most of you, and particularly my retired educators, are you aware that starting in 2011, every teacher, every public school teacher is on an annual contract? Annual. There is no such thing as tenure in the state of Florida for anyone hired after 2011. I have a daughter with 2 master's degrees who's an educator in Orange County. She barely can make ends meet because though you read about all this money going into public education, to teacher salaries, it's really going to recruit new teachers, so raising that salary, and they pay them, my daughter earns bonuses annually. Depending on her performance and the kids' performance, she gets a bonus of maybe $500, $750, $1,000. It does not go onto your salary. It does not go into your pension. You don't know what you're going to get. So that is, anyone who's a teacher in the state of Florida is passionate about kids, has an art, and they are driven by it because you do not do it for any other reason but your belief in public education. So there I was, a new retiree in Florida, loving life in the villages. Oh, I met friends, I golfed, I played, and eventually my heart told me I had to do more. There's more than play for all of us. And I found Tutors for Kids, and I have not looked back. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about it, because whatever your passion may be, you could be that person too to grow something from the ground. In 2009, a couple in Stonecrest decided that they wanted to help kids in Marion County read. So a couple and 4 friends in their neighborhood went to a public school in Marion County and began tutoring reading. From there, Tutors for Kids developed into, pre-pandemic, we had 500 tutors placed in 12 Title I public schools. We will not go into a private school. We will not go to a charter school. We will only serve. Now the pandemic hits. So we lose some tutors, the schools can't have us in, chaos about masks. It just was a really rough period for us, but we're back. And we are rebuilding. At least half of that original 500 are already back in schools, myself being one of them. There are tutors scattered all through here from Tutors for Kids that have returned to the schools. So we're back, we're passionate about it. We know, I know that as negative as the news can be and as terrible as I can feel in this worldwide chaos, I get such joy and hope when I go to my position at Wildwood Elementary kindergarten, because I can help kids for just a short period of time, but it's something. It's what I can do. And it makes me feel as though if each one of us grabbed whatever it is, of course I would love it to be volunteering with Tutors for Kids, but it's maybe something else with you. Rather than being globally distraught over what's happening in our nation, one at a time, we really do have the ability to make positive change in the lives, whether it's our seniors, our kids, the animal, anything, climate, you name it, you can do it. I have been at Wildwood Elementary for 8 years. I've done kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I have found a home in kindergarten, and that tells you a lot about me. I love organized chaos. It is unbelievable what goes on. That's a group of teachers that should be paid the way college professors are paid. Because they are foundationally the people, particularly in a Title I school, that help kids learn how to hold a pencil, hold a crayon, figure out what a word is. Well, I'm big on please go wash your face. Let's go wash your hands. Because if we don't do it as educators and volunteers, these are families that have a difficult time getting it all together in the morning, and we're thrilled the kids are in school, but we have to help with some of those skills as well. So I adore kindergarten. It's not for everybody. A lot of people prefer second, third, fourth grade, where you can really do what feels far more structured. Whatever it takes, but I am a kindergartner at heart, always will be, as long as I can still get on those little chairs. That is sometimes an issue. You get the best questions too. Like, what are the lines on your hands. Those are my veins. Why do you have those? Because they have the most adorable, pudgy little hands. How old are you? How old do you think I am? 40? Yeah. Doesn't matter. It's loving. Those 2 hours every Friday morning, no matter how tired I may be, how busy I may be, bring me such joy that I was thrilled to be able to share it with all of you. Again, we are all the product of a robust public education system. We cannot let that perish in this country. That is the We have a lovely table up here. Every month, Jerry or Ann Rosati or myself have a table in the anteroom. If you have any questions about us or think about you may want to join us, please stop and see us, pick up a brochure. You do not have to be a former educator. We have a lovely orientation that we'll provide to you, and we have ongoing professional development. The last little, I know I'm running over, the last little bit of our program that I want you to understand, which is really fun this year, fun to sort through, we give out brand new books. We purchase books through our grants and donations and give books as incentives to the children and at winter break and spring break, because often our students have not had an opportunity to really own their own books. So we have worked hard at that. In Sumter County, because of the governor's book craziness, we had all of our books that we already owned that had to be approved by the media center, and they were. So we're giving out books. Marion County's, we're getting there. We will pervade. We are going to give out books to kids. We're going to get books in the hands of kids because that is so, so important to foster that love of reading. So that's the other part of our program I nearly forgot. So once again, thank you so much. Great to see all of your friends.
Next up is my sweetheart, Dennis Foley. He's going to give us an update on what's going on with Social Security and Medicare, and let us know if we get to keep it.
Organized chaos. Sounds like a great name for any democratic organization or club, doesn't it? Okay, a little survey to start out with. How many in this room believe that Social Security and Medicare should be preserved and protected as we go forward? All right, that's a pretty good percentage. Let's see what a national survey conducted by CBS said. Next slide, please. All right, there it is, number 2, 71%. The highest priority for Congress should be dealing with protecting Social Security and Medicare. Not everybody agrees. Next slide, please. Republicans don't have it anywhere in their top 4 priorities. This is a nationwide survey of voters. Guess what brought the average up? Next slide, please. Democrats. Who else? Because we care about people who are not able to afford going forward without a little bit of assistance that they pay for themselves, right? They contributed throughout their entire lives. Next slide, please. Why is this so current? Well, other than that tremendous State of the Union speech we heard the other day, it came up because, which happens every year, they're talking about the debt ceiling. So let's dispel a couple of myths. The debt ceiling is not about expenses going forward, it's about paying bills we already have agreed to pay. If we don't do that, then our credit goes to what happens with credit when we don't pay our bills, and that would be bad. As every economist has pointed out, it could cause a worldwide deep recession. So typically, Congress has voted to increase the debt ceiling 20 times in the past 21 years. It's a routine thing to do. What's different this year? Republicans, right? Certain people in the Republican Party have decided that this is a great opportunity to threaten to crash the global economy and ours, to try to force cuts to Social Security and Medicare. It's a bargaining move for them. Next slide, please. Here's Katie Porter's whiteboard, the whiteboard of truth. And she was explaining to people on this particular newscast, you can't really see it there. She said, how much does Social Security and Medicare contribute to the national debt? The answer is 0, because by law, it is a trust fund. It's set aside. It comes from your payroll taxes and your employer's payroll taxes. So it's 0. So don't let anybody fool or kid you about that. Next slide, please. You know, I really do agree with former First Lady Michelle Obama that when they go low, we should go high. But with the other guys, there doesn't seem to be any bottom, right? So when I see this guy, whose company, when he was CEO, was convicted of the biggest Medicare fraud in history and was fined $1.7 billion, talk about sunsetting Social Security and Medicare, I really want to say some bad things, but I don't. Voldemort. So there he is on that side, making his case. Here's our guy on the other side. And what he has said quite clearly and emphasized in the State of the Union publicly was, you send me anything that tries to cut Social Security, veto. Try to trim Medicare, veto. Try to cut benefits anyway, veto. They are not going to get away with this on his watch. Fortunately, we also have a Democratic Senate. And it's so bad right now in response to all of that, because he forced the Republicans to stand up on national TV in front of millions of people. We don't believe them, do we? Because they're going to keep trying. And even afterwards, on all their shows, on their networks, they're talking about, the same guy who was up screaming next to Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mike Lee from Utah, liar, liar. The next day we saw a clip of him saying he wanted to pull it up by its roots, Social Security and Medicare, and get rid of it entirely, which is much worse than this guy sunsetted every 5 years. Or the guy in Ron Johnson saying, well, let's review it every year. They're going to keep trying because Republicans have been fighting against Social Security since it was conceived in 1933. And they have continued to try to chip away at it in any form of help for people who might need it from the government ever since. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's this guy. We've heard him a couple of times. John Bonzabama of Chaminade, but now the founder and head of the Social Security Works PAC. And John has done more in the last 10, 12 years to try to help elect, particularly House members, than just about anybody. He did 50 campaign events this past cycle. Wow. And he was here with Val Hemmings at an event that we helped stage. And John has a few things to remind you, and I'm not going to try to sing. Next. Watch what they say, because language is important and matters, and counter it whenever you hear it. Social Security and Medicare are not welfare programs. They're not intended. These are benefits you earned, and people before you who were earned, people after you will be earning and receiving. Thank you. Move on. Next. And watch what they try to do. Social Security cannot add a penny to the deficit, and any proposal to cut benefits as a means of reduction is a ploy to steal them. So we're going to give you a couple of action ideas here in a minute. Next. respond and act accordingly. On the chairs, you found a piece of paper that had email addresses and phone numbers for 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. Your message to the Democrats should be nice and supportive. It's up to you what you say to the Republicans. Michelle Obama is in your ear now, right? So try to stay high if you possibly can. I don't think I would pass that test. And spread the word. Don't let people sort of be misled by all the information that's bad that's out there. And do it for those who will follow us. We know how important Social Security benefits and Medicare are to us because we're in the group that's using it, like 66 million other Americans. But when I was growing up as a young person in the workplace for the first time, I had no idea what it meant to be retired. And I had no idea what was going on. And what I heard in the news in those days was it won't be there when you are ready to retire anyway. Well, guess what? It's there. And it's significantly important to be able to live comfortably and reasonably in the villages right now. So do it for your children and their children. Fight for it. Next slide, please. See if I can do this. There we go. Hang in there. We can do this. We all need to take responsibility. We all need to act and fight these despicable outrages the Republicans are trying to put on us. Thank you very much.
I almost forgot to tell you, I put some small business cards on your chairs. The reason I did that is because if you, in the daily course of your life, if you come across some lonely Democrat and they don't know about us, you can give them a card. On the back is the website and instructions on how to join. So if you just keep one in your wallet or your purse, and you find a lonely Democrat out there crying in the wilderness, you can tell them about us. Our keynote speaker today is Kate Parker. I think in your email inviting me to the meeting, I called her Kate Porter, but she's in California, so. I realized it as soon as I hit the send button. So, Kate is a founding member of the Death with Dignity movement here in Florida, and she's got some really good information for us. Kate?
Hi, and thank you for having me today. Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is a beautiful group. I love it. So, as Diane kindly mentioned, that I am a founding member of the Florida Death with Dignity movement, or initiative actually. We are trying to get this humanitarian law passed in the state of Florida. Next, please. So, what is medical aid in dying? Medical aid in dying is an end-of-life option that allows individuals to legally request and obtain medications to end their life in a peaceful, humane, and dignified manner at a time of their own choosing. Next. 10 states and Washington, D.C. already have this medical aid in dying law and benefits available to their residents. So you may ask yourself, what's the difference between someone that lives in Orange County, Florida, and someone who lives in Orange County, California? People in Orange County, California, I don't know what's going on here. People in Orange County, California, have the right to die on their own terms when they feel like they've had enough. People in Florida are forced to live until they die, however long that might be. Next. A recent Gallup poll found, this was a large nationwide Gallup poll that polled people from all demographic groups, all adults, men, women, whites, non-whites, all age groups, all education levels, all political leaning, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, conservatives, moderates, liberals, and religious groups or non-religious groups. And across the board, 74% agreed that they would like to have a medical aid in dying option available to them if it came to that for them personally. So this is not a partisan issue. It is truly humanitarian. Next, please. So how would you qualify to be eligible for this medical aid in dying option? First, you must be an adult who is competent mentally. So sadly, that does not work for those who are have mental illness or dementia, something like that. But for those of us that are suffering any kind of other horrible disease like cancer, ALS, Parkinson's disease, this would be an option for you. You must have a terminal illness that you've been given a reasonable expectation of 6 months of life. And this has to be confirmed by 2 doctors, that you are an adult, that you are of sane rational thinking, and that you have 6 months or less to live. And you have to voluntarily request this medication and be able to self-administer. No one can do this to you or for you. You must be able to do it for yourself. Next, please. I'd like to take a minute to just put a personal spin on this. I'd like you to meet my dear Aunt Connie. She was a wonderful, fun, she was like the greatest aunt anybody could have when they were growing up. She was single her whole life. She worked for TWA, and her and a group of her friends that were also, lifetime employees of TWA, they would go on the most fabulous trips, and they would come back and tell us all the tales of, going down the Nile, walking on the Great Wall in China, and bringing us gifts from everywhere. She was lively and vibrant, and really the most fun person I've ever known. And this is a picture of her when she was 94 years old. And in the end, she suffered from a heart disease, and she was in hospice care. And then she slipped and broke her hip. And from there on, it was just really a complete nightmare. She was in hospice care at home, and she hated that people would have to be taking care of her. She was so independent her whole life. She hated that people would have to come in and help with her catheters or change her diapers or wash her, or all the basic necessities of life that are intimate and personal. And then when they started administering like the hospice drugs, which work well for many people, and this is not a knock at all against hospice. In fact, our Death with Dignity program works well hand in glove with hospice. But hospice isn't the total answer for everyone. And she had terrible nightmares and hallucinations, and it was just a horrible, horrible time with the medications that were given to her. And I just held her hand, and for like weeks, she would just cry every day just to let her die. And, this is America. Nobody should have to beg for death. And that's why when I moved to Florida and I found out that we didn't have that law here, I thought, I'm doing it here for you, Aunt Connie. This is it. So that's my personal note. She's my driving force, but more than that, I want it for myself. I want it for my kids. I want it for my husband, everyone I love, even people I don't love, people I don't know. Nobody should have to beg for death. Okay, next, please. Next. Okay. Medical aid in dying simply results in less suffering. Next. How would such a law protect us from abuse? The law that we have, that we're trying to get passed in the state of Florida is based on the law that was passed in Oregon like 26 years ago. It has very strong safeguards for protecting people from abuse and coercion. First off, like I said earlier, you have to be an adult of sound mind with a terminal illness with less than a reasonable expectation of 6 months to live. And all of this has to be confirmed by 2 doctors. You have to be able to take the medication yourself. If there's a doubt that you are of sound mind, then you must go through a psychiatric evaluation, and 2 doctors have to agree that you are of sound mind. So the safeguards for protecting the patient against, meddling relatives that just want their inheritance or whatever, the safeguards are very strongly in place, and in fact, there has never been a valid case of patient abuse or coercion in the 26 years that it's been a law in the state of Oregon, or the cumulative 50 years of all the states together. Not a single case of abuse or coercion. That stands as a testament to the integrity of the law. Next. How does such a law protect our doctors? Sometimes, you hear doctors say, well, I personally agree with it, but I'm not sure that I would be willing to prescribe it to a patient. Because, doctors are sued all the time. You've all heard of malpractice insurance. This law actually, when the doctors follow the prescribed steps, and they have in all these other jurisdictions, when they follow the prescribed steps and go, it's all laid out for them how to do it legally. And when they do it legally, the doctor is protected from civil or criminal liability. They've done all their steps, they have the documentation. The family can't sue them, they're protected from civil suits. They are protected from criminal suits when they have done all the steps. So doctors are free to act according to their conscience. No doctors are forced to participate in this. It's a choice for them, just like it would be for the patient. They can decide to be a part of the program or not. So doctors are covered. Next. How would such a law affect my insurance? Well, when you actually do take the Death with Dignity medication, that if you were to decide to do this for yourself, and you take the medication, your death would be recorded legally as death by your underlying condition. And so that means that if you're suffering from cancer or whatever, that would be the legal description of your death. And the life insurance companies are required to pay. I mean, it's not reported anywhere as death by suicide or anything else. It is very clearly death by your underlying condition. And you know why? Because you are dying. In order to get the medication, you are already in the process of dying. You're just having a little bit more control over how long you have to suffer until the end. Okay, next please. Another question people have is how do I tell my family? Sometimes that can be a hard topic. In America, death isn't a common topic like it is in many other countries. We sort of just shy away from it and don't discuss it. But like during the case when we had, with Terry Schiavo, you may remember that thing, that was, I don't know, 15 or 20 years ago. And she had been in a coma, and her husband, and she'd been in a coma for quite a while, and her husband wanted to pull the plug and just let her go. And her parents said no, that they wouldn't allow it because Terry wouldn't have wanted that. And so it became this big court case that was watched all around the world. And really what came from that, and sadly, our Death with Dignity law would not have worked for Terri Schiavo because she was in a coma. So she couldn't do this herself. She wasn't of sound mind and she couldn't self-ingest the medication. But what came from that was that people in America started talking with their family members of what they wanted in case of that they became incapacitated for some reason. And thus became our living wills, the death advance directives for what we want other people to do for us when we can't make that decision for ourselves. So that's what that brought along. So now what we're trying to do is get this conversation going with your family members again, and just say, now we've got our living wills, so everyone knows what to do for us in case we can't decide for ourselves. But this is what I would choose for myself if I can decide. I want to have the option to have this medication, and on the day that I decide I've had enough, I can take that medication and die peacefully in my sleep. And you get that conversation going with your family members so they all understand that this is your true wish, and especially before you're in that situation. Have the conversation now before you're dying from cancer. Then they know. And I'll tell you another thing, just by the way, and that is that about 70% of the people who have asked for this medication take the medication at a time of their own choosing and have that peaceful death. 30% of the people choose not to take it because they have never reached that point yet, but they say that it gives them comfort just to know that if it does get worse and they're ready to call it, they can call it. And so there's many reasons why to have this option. Not necessarily that you want to take it for yourself or that you don't want to take it for yourself. It is just another option that you have to choose. Right now, we don't really have an option. We have as much pain relief as we can get, but that's not always enough. Talk to my Aunt Connie about that. Next. Okay, next. I always talk ahead of the slides. So how can you help? We are a grassroots organization. Go ahead to the next one, please, thanks. We are a grassroots organization. We have small little groups of people. I've been out for 2 years getting petition signatures and asking for volunteers and donations. And there are so many ways that you can help. You'll see here on my slide, we've got our website and our Facebook page. Even if you do nothing but, get on our Facebook page and interact, that helps spread the news. Any way that we can get the word out. We have email campaigns. We're doing petition gatherings. We're we do have sponsors in both houses. I can't say the names until they actually do the filing, but we're going. This is going. And so we need to get a large group of people to get out there and support the legislators to say, yes, we've got 150 people, 150,000 people in your jurisdiction that want this law passed. Give the lawmakers the support they need to pass this law. When we talked earlier about the percentage of people across the board that were in favor of this law, 74%, even in a predominantly conservative area like the Villages, I have found that to be true. When I'm out getting petition signatures, I get about 74% of people willing to sign my petition. I think that's fabulous because, again, it's not a partisan issue. It's humanitarian. Thank you. So, at the very least, spread it, talk about it to your friends and neighbors. I've got petition signature pages up here if you want to come. I've got flyers. If any of you are interested in volunteering, even like on email campaigns and things, I have my business card, which has my personal contact contact information, and I'm the coordinator for volunteers in Central Florida. So if you want to volunteer, either petition gathering or emailing, grab a card and email me saying you'd like to volunteer. Or you can put a big old V in front of your name when you sign my petition, and then I'll just get you on my mailing list. So I think that's what I have for now. Shall I open it for questions?
Oh, yes.
Thank you, okay.
You talked about an individual having to take the medication themselves. So you have a person who's of sound mind, less than 6 months to live, who has severe ALS or Parkinson's and does not have the coordination to take the medication, but he's of sound, he wants it. How do you deal with that?
Well, however that person eats, I mean, if they can hold a cup and...
Well, they can, assuming they can't hold a cup.
Okay, yeah,
They
okay.
can.
Okay. Well, and if they have a feeding tube, all they have to be able to do is hold it. I mean, maybe they could just prop the cup. I know there's so many what-if things, but you have to be able to self-adjust it. So if you could put a cup in a safe place with a straw, and they could get the straw in their mouth, then that would allow them to take it. Or if they have...
So you can lift the cup and give it to them?
Yes, but they have to be able to, they have to do it themselves. What I'm saying is, I can't talk about very specifics on individual, because the law is the law, and I'm not going to suggest that anything else goes, but...
I had a second follow-up.
Yes, okay.
Even though the death is recorded as natural causes in a state that has a death with dignity law, the insurance companies are going to challenge it anyway.
They won't. The insurance...
It has never been challenged?
Yeah, the insurance companies, they comply. And it's already been out there, like I said, for 26 years. Once you have the law, they understand how the law works. Okay, now, excuse me, Doctor.
Yes, a couple of things. When our pets, our loved pets, are injured or dying, we let them go. We take them to the vet. The vet gives them a shot and they're gone. They're not suffering. We should have forced in the old days, so they didn't suffer. Also, there's a movie, I think it was a true story, called Whose Life Is It Anyway? With Richard Dreyfuss, and it was so sad. He was a quadriplegic, and he wanted to die, and the hospital was trying to say, no, you can't die. Give the guy a break, it's his life. He's got a mind, he can decide. And when you go to the doctors or the hospital, what do they ask you? Do you have a living will? I finally got one, my husband got one. He passed away and he went into hospice, and when he died, I was there to hold his hand. So, don't let your loved ones suffer. You do it for your pet, do it for your loved ones, your family. My sister and I have a pact. I don't want to be in the hospital with, like the poor girl. I think the governor got involved when the husband wanted to go with saving her, letting her go. The parents said, no, we're going to let her suffer in the hospital for who knows how long. So I'm a Christian, but I think if Jesus was here, or, go for it.
That's right. Like you, I don't believe our God wants us to suffer. I don't believe that anybody's God wants them to suffer. That's not anybody's grand plan for people on earth. Anyone else? Well, I'll be down in front. If you'd like to sign the petitions or whatever, come up and chat with us. Thank you so much.
Okay, so, we got through another one.